voice of the preacher from the back room. Call him.
Hi, Room 21 Rockstar families, and welcome to our weekly VODCAST on this very long weekend. I hope everyone's enjoying it, although it's been kind of a little rainy outside. First thing I want to do today is actually announce this week's Rockstar of the Week. This week's Rockstar of the Week is actually Marlon Rubio. You know, Mrs. Austin comes to me on a daily basis, and she is always like, hey, Mr. Riker, this person is really standing out to me with the Barrett Academy Constitution. And this individual, she came to me every single day last week and said, Mr. Riker, this person really stood out day after day after day. They're upping their greetings. Last week when they got up and taught in front of the class on a couple of occasions, they've taken the feedback that other people have been given and implemented that in their teaching. And therefore, Marlon is this week's Rockstar of the Week. So congratulations goes out to Marlon. Couple of quick announcements before I get off to the strategy session this week. Remember, tomorrow is no school for students. It is Columbus Day, and it's also a teacher work day. Tuesday, the very day we come back, is actually picture day, so please do not forget that. The picture order forms were sent home. If you're interested in ordering anything, you can actually send that in on Tuesday when students return to school. The fall dance is actually this Friday, the PTO fall dance this Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. in the activity room. And finally, if anyone has 2-liter large soda bottles that are empty, I just need about 3 or 4 of them for a science lesson this week. If you could send those in at the beginning of the week, that would be excellent. So I'm only looking for about 3 or 4, but we're doing something with erosion and weathering that will really help us to understand the science concept. So if you have one of those, send those in on Tuesday, and that would be wonderful. Now I'm going to send you off to the strategy session, and I'll see you guys on the other end. Today I am starting you off with a word problem to kind of get those word problem skills going inside of your mind. So you'll notice here's a word problem on the screen. It says Ben has $249 for his lunch and his 13 friends. His mom told him to split the money evenly between himself and his friends. How much money will each person have for lunch? So what you guys have noticed is, and this is a great strategy that we've been talking about in class, is that I highlighted some of the major key words. I highlighted $249. I highlighted 13 friends. I highlighted split evenly and each. Okay, and the crazy thing is that if you actually read those highlighted words that I have set aside, those words kind of tell the whole story. $249, 13 friends, split evenly each. Now, the only thing that I probably would still want to highlight would be his lunch, because not only is he paying for his friends, but also for his lunch. So that's a key that you need to keep in mind here. Now, if you guys come in tomorrow, have this entire problem solved, and if you have checked your work with the inverse of whatever operation that you have to use, so I want to see all work, check with the inverse operation, and labels on everything, you can get yourself 5 house points. So what I'm really looking for with this problem, guys, is that neatness of work that we talked about last week and that representation. How are you labeling everything to really show that you know the problem and have it down? And then in turn, how are you showing that you know how to check your own work to make sure that it's accurate? So if you include all of these items, you will get yourself 5 house points if you bring that in on a sheet of paper, guys. Now, I'm sure this is a moment that you've all been waiting for in 5th grade. I know many of you already know the song because some of my students last year maybe came down to your room and sang it at dismissal or at some other point in time in the year. This week, guys, we're actually starting the order of operations, okay? Now, the order of operations is a process that mathematicians use to solve number expressions, because if they solved them differently, then we'd be getting different answers all across the board. So mathematicians came up with a way to solve problems in the same manner, and we do that, of course, so that we can get accurate answers each time. So this is a song that we're actually going to learn this week. This is a song that I did not write, but this is a song that Ron Clark wrote, who many of you know about. So I just want to play it for you. We are going to learn this song this week, so check it out.
orders of operation, and we're all gonna pass. Figure 35, you look at that. Square, 3, 5, 12, 96, 81. There you go, have fun. This last is on track. Let me hear you all sing it. Bring it out. We're about to get ready to start. We're gonna have this equation apart. What does that N mean? It is a unknown part, known as a variable. It is so solvable. It's not impossible. Success is probable. Because when we begin together. Parentheses first, now please be clever. Exponents come right next in line. You gotta multiply and divide at the same time. Now subtraction and addition. Walk it out with computations. It's the order of operations. It's the order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A. The power share. Whenever a number's square, you have to multiply and go from low to high. And if it's cubed or more, you'll have some work in store. As long as parties do, give more help to you. Because when we begin together. Parentheses first, now please be clever. Exponents come right next in line. You gotta multiply and divide at the same time. Now subtraction and addition. Walk it out with computations. It's the order of operations. It's the order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A. You can handle all this math. It's okay, just don't get tapped. It's easy, so easy. Just take it one step at a time. Stay in line and you'll be fine. Because when we begin together. Parentheses first, now please be clever. Exponents come right next in line. You gotta multiply and divide at the same time. Now subtraction and addition. Walk it out with computations. It's the order of operations. It's the order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A plus order of operations. Ations. A. We're learning. Oh yes, we're learning. Oh, it's algebra. Reading is algebra. We're learning. Oh yes, we're learning. Oh, it's algebra. Reading is algebra.
Okay, guys, so that was just a quick video that I wanted to show you that we're going to be learning this week, and my classes in the past have really loved it, so I hope that we can get it down as well. It is kind of a long song, but we'll get it down, and I'll share the lyrics with you this week. Now, I do want to look very quickly at one example of order of operations, and since you guys have tomorrow off, I am making the VODCAST just a little bit longer in case you want to work on some problems tomorrow on your day off. So, order of operations. So if I have an expression that looks like this, it says 3 times, open parenthesis, 5 minus 2 plus 5. We can't just solve it from left to right. We actually have to have a certain order, as we talked about earlier, because mathematicians kind of have to know how they're going about solving things. So we have an abbreviation that's called PEMDAS. Okay? The P actually stands for parentheses. The E actually stands for exponents, which we'll talk about later, and we've kind of already talked about with prime numbers. The M stands for multiplication. The D stands for division. But I'm going to put these two on the same line, and you're going to see why in a second. The A stands for addition, and the S stands for subtraction. So check this out with me for a second, guys. So I have the order of operations. What this means is the first thing that I need to follow is actually parentheses. So I have to look in my problem, and anything that is within parentheses I must solve first. Okay, it's so very important that I solve everything in parentheses first. So if I look at my expression right here, remember we talked about that this is an expression and not a number sentence because it doesn't have that equal sign. It's kind of like a phrase in your writing, not writing a complete sentence. So I'm going to look inside of my parentheses, and I have 5 minus 2. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop everything else down, and I'm going to take 5 minus 2, which is everyone, 3. Okay, and then I'm going to bring down plus 5. You notice how the only thing that I did was solve what was inside the parentheses. Everything else I had to drop down. And it's kind of making that cone shape that we talked about in class earlier this year. Now I look at my expression, 3 times 3 plus 5. Okay, and I look here, so far I have taken care of parentheses, so I'm going to take that off. I have 0 exponents, okay? Now I have multiplication and division. Now the thing with multiplication and division is you do it at the very same time, left to right. So, you know, if you have division first, you would do that first, even if you have multiplication later on in the problem. Multiplication and division, left to right. So, starting at the left of the problem right here and going right, I see one multiplication problem, which is 3 times 3, and that's going to equal 9. And then I just drop down 5. So I took 3 times 3, which was 9, dropped down 5. I have no division, so multiplication and division is done in PEMDAS. And finally, I'm going to spell addition correctly, now we're going to look at addition and subtraction. So I only have one operation left to complete, and that would be 9 plus 5. 9 plus 5, everyone, is 14. Okay, so that does it for the order of operations for this particular problem. I'm going to take away that addition and subtraction. Okay, now right now this may seem a little foreign to you guys, okay, and I know the biggest thing that the fifth graders always trying to struggle with is not being patient enough to take it one step at a time, but notice how that makes that cone shape, okay, which is with PEMDAS. Now, if you want to practice a few order of operations problems at home, I've actually arranged on our Class Fusion page somewhere where you can do that. So let me take off our green writing there. Here we are in our Class Fusion page. I'm going to roll the whole way down to the Class News section. We're going to find order of operations. First of all, there's that song that I played, if you want to check that out right here. And then finally, here's an interactive game. Now, it deals with knights and different things like that, the royal family. Okay, so basically what you do is you choose one. They're going to take you into the castle, as you can see here, and then you're going to have a problem. Now, these problems are kind of lengthy, but basically, always write down PEMDAS, which is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. But remember, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction are together. Okay, and this may be something you want to revisit later in the week to get some house points for, especially if it's still a little blurry right now, guys, since we haven't really talked about it yet in class. Tuesday will be our first day, but basically for this game is you have to decide what is the first operation. Well, I know the first operation is within the parentheses, okay? 6 times 3, which is 18, then I'm going to hit enter, then it's going to take it up. It's showing you how many steps you have to do. It's a really fun game. If you solve these, just write it down. You can get yourself 4 house points for each of these guys. And like I said, it may take a little bit of trial and error, and you may want to save this portion of the VODCAST until a little later in the week as well, because since we haven't really gone over it too much yet. Now I'm going to take you back to our Class Fusion page. So that does it for math for the week. Okay, I did provide a rather lengthy review for you to check it out. For writing this week, I actually found a really cool writing prompt, guys. You know that we've been talking about Pangea in science a lot recently. Well, for our writing fix of the week, check this picture out. So it basically says, imagine that the continents were suddenly smashed back together like Pangea. I would like you to bring in a lead sentence that absolutely hooks a reader, and you can earn yourself 3 house points. So you're kind of telling a story. What's going on in the world? If you bring in the complete story, you can get 5 house points, okay? So I just want you guys to have a little bit of fun with that. I thought that was kind of cool and a cool connection to science, and that's a good way to practice your lead hook sentences as well. Now, for reading, you can get yourself 10 house points for this task. I actually found a passage that deals with sequencing. You know, that's our reading skill right now that we've been working on in class over the last 2 weeks. Now, this is a scientific method. Now, it looks pretty straightforward. What I want you guys to actually do is, okay, is I have the scientific method here, and I'll have these links up on our Fusion page too if you want to use them. Here's a passage. Now, you may have to flip back and forth between the video, and here are the questions. If you bring in the answer to the questions with your work proven, there are 5 of them, here they are, you may want to pause on the screen, you can get yourself 10 house points. Okay, now you have to use a passage with proof to answer each of those questions. So that's a really good way to practice the sequencing, and here in a second after I'm done filming our VODCAST, I'm going to put the links to both of those items right under here under class news under sequencing passage. Okay, so you can get yourself 10 house points. You can either check the passage out here with the questions, or you can check it out when I post it up. You may just have to pause the VODCAST as we go. The final thing that I have for you tonight, guys, is actually a little bit of science practice. You know, this week we're still working on earth science. We're going to move into weathering, erosion, deposition, different terms like that. I have a few cool sites that you can visit, some review games. There are 2 review games here, and then a Layers of the Earth interactive site that you can go to help you to study for those things. If you want to visit these games and you show me some type of proof that you were playing them and you were actually engaged in them, I'll give you a couple house points if you bring in some type of proof for those guys. And we can talk about a fair number when you bring those in. So those are right here, okay? And as always, SOL Pass, it's totally free. You can visit that to help you study each night. You should be studying 5 to 10 minutes a night in order to get all of those skills and concepts down. And finally, I'm sure you've all been waiting, our secret code of the week. You can get yourself 5 house points since you've watched the whole VODCAST, gotten through to this point. The hashtag this week is actually #cheese. That will help you to remind you that Tuesday is actually picture day. You can get yourself 5 house points with that code, #cheese. And you got to say it with some oomph whenever I see you on Tuesday, rock stars. So I can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday. Now, make sure you look at all of the different wonderful resources that we have here available on our Class Fusion page. And now I'm actually featuring our house point race. I'll update this each weekend so you can see where where the standings are for each house. Okay, so I'm so proud of those of you who have really been putting in a ton of time, effective effort with the VODCAST and really working to go above and beyond with your learning. That has been incredible. I will see you guys on the other end. Okay, Room 21 Rockstars and Rockstar families, I hope that those strategies were successful for you. I cannot wait for this week that is coming up in Room 21. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, do not hesitate to contact me. Follow us on Twitter, @ReichardRock. You can follow us on our class YouTube page. Class Fusion always has so many links that I update on a weekly basis that you can also check along. And also remember to sign up for Remind, which is our text messaging service. Sometimes I push out text messages to you. You are the very best families in Stafford County, and I'll see you next week.
Hey, I hear the voice of the preacher from the back room calling my name.